Hi and welcome. We are back here watching Livin' on a Prairie. Hi, I'm Pamela Bob, writer and creator and star of the series. Today, we are on episode 5. And this episode has a very special guest star, Alison Arngrim, in a role that you've never quite seen her do before. I cannot wait. And after the show, Alison will be joining us here for an awesome interview. Alison is fantastic. So, if you want to know anything about Game of Thrones and why we're talking about it, join us after the show. And a little something after the credits.
And in, and out. And in, and out. We're holding this space together, and we're honoring it. As your life coach, our hour together is devoted to your growth. We could have Skyped, but face-to-face is good too. And at this place, breakfast is $7.99 with free refills, so it's a win-win for everyone, I think.
What is wrong with me? I don't think I'm that difficult of a person to get along with. I think I'm pretty easy to get along with. But it's just like no one gets it. It's like I'm on an island of idiots and I'm the sane one. But because I'm the sane one on an island of idiots, I'm considered the idiot and everyone else is the norm. I'm the idiot. I'm the idiot.
Okay, I feel that we're really focusing on your rage and feelings of isolation. But I want to move past that. I want to look at what's behind the anger. What I'm getting, basically from everything you've told me, is the only time you even feel connected to humanity is when you're watching this show of yours. You're not isolated then. You get a sense of community, a sense of family, a sense of being unconditionally loved. And these values are important to you. But your very basic needs have been created by these values that you learned a very long time ago. Essentially, the episodes of this show are in effect your childhood memories. But it's okay. Nobody wants you to stop loving it. The question is, how do you get these needs met in your life for real?
I don't know.
Okay. As your life coach, I feel I need to challenge you right now with truth. This is a fictionalized TV show from the 1970s. I mean, if you loved Breaking Bad or Stranger Things or Star Wars even had a revival, if we're talking about Transparent, that's a current cultural phenomenon. It's a conversation starter. It's water cooler conversation. Little House on the Prairie? I don't know, maybe in France. But I'm not shutting you out. No one wants to shut you out. It's just people either have no idea what the heck you're talking about, or they don't share this deeper understanding you have of the show. And I get it that that's frustrating. And that you feel like you're the only one who's in on the big secret. And the question is, are you getting more out of this show than you're getting out of your real life? What are you afraid of? What's at stake? What's at stake if you risk loving a real person?
Look at me. What if he breaks my heart? What if he leaves? And I'll still be alone. I'll just be alone and destroyed.
And what's at stake if you don't risk loving a real person?
I'll die alone with the TV remote in my hand, watching actors who never knew who I was and who don't know me.
Vulnerability is what makes us human, and not just a character on a TV show. know, can you love someone who doesn't love Little House on the Prairie? Is loving this show a criteria for being with you? What if someone's great? What if they love you, they value you, they honor you, but they just don't have every single aspect of their lives completely identical to yours?
Like Nellie and Percival.
Okay, I just want to pause and honor what you just said. Pamela, you have everything you need to live a fulfilling life.
Hi, I never do this, but I just wanted to say that we love you on Game of Thrones.
I can't believe King Joffrey is right here.
King Joffrey.
When you died, I
Peter
was like,
Dinklage.
yeah.
Lannister.
Is your water okay?
Yes.
Winter's coming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes. I get that all the time.
That was episode 5, Life Coach. Thank you for joining us for Prairie Talk after the show. I'm Pamela Bob, and we are here with a very, very, very special guest and the star of the Life Coach episode, my life coach and friend, Alison Arngrim, aka Nellie Oleson from Little House on the Prairie. Here she is, folks.
Hey! Hi. I get that all the time. Oh, yeah. Killing.
Well,
Killing.
let me say, that resemblance between you and King Joffrey is uncanny.
It's
What is it? Is it
unbelievable.
something about your...
It's creepy.
It's creepy.
That's what I need. You know, I have another photo. I do have to call in. Oh, Bob. Thank you. So here's the picture of Nellie. That's the one when King Joffrey, when the whole Game of Thrones thing started with the evil King Joffrey, who I love, by the way. I loved him on the show.
Amazing.
Again, little Irish boy. My heritage is Irish. That's why we're probably cousins. We're probably related. And I read about him, and he's a darling, lovely person, theatrically trained. And you know, he doesn't want to do TV anymore. After that, that was going back to academia and theater because everyone was so mean to him. Everyone starts hacking him for being King Joffrey. And he said, I don't need this. If I'd known this was going to happen. But he's so marvelous, the commitment. And this is the picture. There it is. That's the one where people go, oh my God, it's King Joffrey. And when that happened, because I was already watching and I already loved him, so I knew about him. Because like sometimes these internet things start happening and the actors involved are like, what was happening? And we don't know. But in this one, I had watched it and I knew him, of him, and I was a huge fan. And then when this thing exploded, suddenly there on my Facebook is a picture of him and a picture of me and going, evil has a face, you know.
Yeah, there's a split photo.
And I screamed. I was like, oh, I totally look like it's that smirk. It's a little like smirk.
It's crazy. The bone structure, all of it. Like,
Irish. He's in Ireland. He is an Irish person, and my father's birth name was Wilfred James Bannon, and it's the Bannons and the Blythes, and my mother's side Scottish Macmillan. But I'm Irish. I am Irish as a potato, and I have all this Irish Scottish blood and British blood, and so he's Irish British, and so we're probably freaking related. I'm telling you.
Yeah, you probably are.
Cousin or something. So it's
just so amazing. Two iconic villains that happen to look identical.
And so
crazy.
Good. I always talk about, we're just talking about it in a commitment to the material. Like when you do comedy and improv, so you've got to commit to that joke, commit to the material. When you're playing a villain, you have to commit. And actors go, I want to be liked. I don't want people to hate me. You need to commit.
And I love what you say in your one-woman show, Confessions of a Prairie. Can we say bitch? It's sort of for streaming purposes been turned into the Confessions of a Prairie Terror. But it's really Confessions of a Prairie Bitch, just like your autobiography, memoir, autobiography. But you say, and I actually, when I heard you say it, I literally took out my phone and I wrote it down. You said, anyone can be likable. It takes true talent to scare the crap out of you.
Yes, you need to be
Did I
like,
quote
"It
that
takes
correctly?
talent to scare the crap out of people." Yes.
That's right.
Right. And that's the thing. Everybody wants likability. And that was the thing that came to me. It was like, no, I've been freed. I've been freed from the trap of worrying about likability. And who needs likability? Really talented is scare people out of their wits. And it's true. That is what happened to me with that character. And so, but it is weird. Like doing your show, one of the reasons I'm so excited about being in Livin on a Prairie, besides the fact that it's hysterically funny, is people they still have it in their heads. Oh my God, she's Nellie Oleson, she's evil, and that's
Right.
gonna. And like, can I play a nice person from time to time? I've played nice people. I've done theater. I've played nice people, but I play a lot of villains too, and I love it. But you should like, no, you're gonna be not only nice, a therapist, a life coach. Okay, she's not really that good at being a life coach. She's like, and let's have free breakfast because I'm terrible at being a life coach, but I want the cheap food. So hi.
That's why I wrote it as a life coach and not a therapist. I thought
she's kind of
she's wouldn't quite go to the highest rung. She'd go right below there.
Yeah, and she's sort of all over it. She's sort of like, and we could meet, but here it's there's and breakfast it's too. Yeah, so she's the world's cheapest life coach, and it's like we're holding this space, and I totally researched it and everything. I talked to my life coach friend, and
I know like, you came.
She's
so
like,
prepared.
I totally got it. She said, I know what kind of life coach you are talking about. Here's and much fun. So, but she's a nice person. She's trying to be empathetic. Yes. And for people to see me in that, it blows people's minds. And it's so different. The character is so different than anything I normally do. And that's why I love the sweater and everything. And I got so into it. A lot of my friends and my actor friends are going, man, that was good. I took that clip and I'm like, I need to put this on my actors rail. I know you're like holding this series like the secret, but I need to put it up on like Actors Access, and my agent wants to, because it's like my best work. It's so good.
You are so brilliant in it. But that's not an easy part to do. I marvel. First of all, I'm so excited people are going to be seeing you in this light in this episode. I really first of all, you're amazing in it. But second of all, no one has ever seen you like this before. The Nellie label is so, it's a part of you and it's how people see you. And I was really aware of wanting to write something for you that broke that mold.
Hardest part, keeping a straight face, because okay, people, when I'm doing that scene where I'm being so yes and what about, she is like 12 inches from me. She's like here. She's like here on the other side there. And we're in this cafe, which has been cleared out, but there's all these people hanging around. There's like crew and everybody's friends hanging around going, so it's like distracted mundo world. And then she's like here and she won't stop crying. She's I'm an idiot. And I'm just going, I'm gonna die. And I'm trying not to start like screaming with laughter because you're so just in the zone going, and I'm going, oh my God. We're getting ready to do it. And so she's like, pulling it up. Her nose is red. I mean, she's really, and so we're getting ready to shoot next round. And so it's, you're an actor and you're like, yeah, we're going to go there. And because like Michael Landon used to do this thing, like with Melissa Gilbert, just crying right before a scene, just like hug her and say, do you know how much I love you? And then she's like, oh, yeah, you go. And so she's getting right crying. She's working up the tears. And right before, seconds before the action, I looked right at her and said, Michael Landon would have loved you so much. Do you know how much Michael Landon would just love you and what you're doing? Oh, the poor girl.
I mean, it was a blessing and a curse. It was like the best moment of my life. Did you know you were going to do that in advance?
No.
Or just in the moment, you were like, okay.
No, I saw you go and I went, yeah. I just said it. And sure enough, you melted down. You had a full meltdown right in front of me. And I was like, oh, that was good.
Let's talk about Nellie, because you probably have faced the most fanaticism out of any of the characters from Little House on the Prairie. Did you know that this was going to be the label, the stigma that was going to be what sort of defined you for the rest of your life?
No, it was so nuts. I mean, early on, I knew that I hit like a nerve. And like, well, I tell the story in my stand-up act of literally going to school the next day after the very first episode aired, and this girl screaming at me and calling me a bitch. And just, oh, wow. And like right away, people were in face. And I went, okie dokie, I've hit a nerve, something. And that's when I went, okay, I have to adjust, because it's either leave town, have plastic surgery, or, figure out what I'm going to do. So that's what I'm going to commit. I'm going to go with this. Yes, and then so I was like, okay. So I got through it, but I saw people were really like, throwing things at me in a parade. I was like, oh, wow, okay. So I thought, and there was typecasting, because, well, like, Charlotte Stewart was talking about going to the audition for Miss Beadle and the women coming into audition in the dresses and bonnets. Hollywood is shockingly typecast. You would think that people who make movies and TV shows would have more imagination, not less.
Yeah,
but they're very set in their ways. And gradually it began to dawn on us that my management, everyone, that wow, this is really in people's brains. The funniest was when my agent submitted me for a part. I don't remember what the hell it was, something, and it was modern day. And he said, yes, blah, blah. And I was like, perfect for us, the right age, blah, blah, blah. And he submitted me for it. It was like towards the end of the show. And they said, oh, no, this takes place in present day. And my agent said,
no.
Do you think she's Pioneer Barbie? Like she comes with the clothes? What are you talking about? Like she's like a paper doll or something, like lives in the 1800s? What the like there was some rule I can only be in 1800, which weirdly, and there you go. I did a TV movie of the week with the MOWs, and it was great. It was like they just called my agent and said, yeah, well, she's just doing it. It was just offered like, here's how much and show up. Oh, great. And what was it? It's a marvelous movie with Marie Osmond called I Married Wyatt Earp, but it was a Western. Right. And I was to play her like goofy, trashy friend. I do all the drinking and the flirting where she's like goody. But they didn't go, they just went, come on. It was literally the 18th. I was like wearing the same dress.
Again, another reason why I was so determined to write a part for you in the show that was the polar opposite of that, because when actors are put into a box like that, it's just so unfair. And I get the fans want to see you in a certain way, and they will always associate you in that way, and that's great. But you're an actor.
We didn't know it lasted long. When the show ended, I and all of the actors, we said, because we're actors, we went, well, that was a good job, but yeah, we're done. And then like years go by, and we're still getting this, and I'm still getting all this Nellie stuff. My favorite is Melissa Gilbert spoke at a school, an elementary school in Ireland. And they said, oh, you're still friends with, from the show. And she said, oh, I'm very good. Alison Arngrim was Nellie. But why would you want to be friends with her? And this was said, and it just would happen. And my friends, and the worst was like boyfriends. It was in the 80s. I was going out with this guy, and he didn't watch the show. He was like totally clueless. And he was talking to some guys, and they said, oh, yeah, I know your girlfriend. She's a total bitch.
Oh, Alison. I can't imagine, and you talk about this in your book and in your show, Confessions of a Prairie Bitch, how many times since you were 11 that you've been called bitch. How did you navigate that with, first of all, trying to fight this system that's only seeing you
in
this
a bonnet
way? And how do you fight that? And if you can't fight it, then how did you come to the other side of then embracing the Nellie?
Well, it was so crazy because there were the two things going on: the Hollywood typecasting, and then the people going, "I hate you. Are you evil?" Now I was 12. I was in junior high, so I'm like an adolescent. So I'm like, "Yay, villains, haha!" And I have a really, really warped sense of humor.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it takes a very particular person with a very particular constitution to be able to take it as funny and not take it in as a personal thing or have it affect your own self-esteem or your own value.
I have a very, very bad sense of humor. I mean, there are many actresses, if they saw themselves compared to King Joffrey, would have said,
Right.
Bill. And I was like, yay, I love him. He's my son. He's my spiritual son. I'm filling out adoption papers. I love that one. So yeah, I thought that was great. I think really terrible things sometimes are funny, which has served me well and kept me alive all these
Right.
many years. The typecasting was tough. As I said, my age, it was just like, I do not get this. Why? But the other thing, and as an actor, it took me a while to like go, wow, okay, like none of us from the show knew it was going to be like this. We thought it'll go away. Remember, there were 3 channels. There was no cable television. There was no such thing as a DVD or even a VHS tape when we started. VHS tapes were invented during the course of our show.
Right.
DVDs did not exist till years later. So the idea that people would still be watching it, how would they do such a thing? And so then we were all like, oh no, now it's never going away ever. And we all had to sort of reconcile ourselves to the fact that people were now watching it, whole generations, for the first time.
Right.
And you've been on Facebook, you've seen where people go, what's this episode and who's that? And you're like, the show was 45 years ago. No, they just joined now. They just
Right.
found out.
Well,
And
that's what's so crazy is that there seems to be a growing fan base as the years go on. It's also a testament to the show and the beauty of the show and how universal.
More people watch it now than when it was on, which is just like that. And for us actors, we're like, what just happened? We don't get. On Little House, we had such a bond as a family, and the chemistry, which Michael Landon cast the right people, the chemistry.
Yeah, the
that
casting
we
is
had
brilliant.
things happening that were like, people were like, no, that wasn't a show. That was real.
Yeah.
It was just sucked in. So would you want to be a good enough actor that people say, I saw your show, you were great? Or do you want to be a good enough actor that people see you and start screaming?
How long did you really struggle with the typecasting thing where you were like, you couldn't get arrested in any other type of role until you flipped it and embraced and went, well, if they're not going to see me as anything else other than Nellie, then I'm going to Nellie it up more than any Nellie has ever Nellied anything.
Yes. So it wasn't going away. And I was like, okay, here, what are my choices? Well, retire. Yeah, I happen to change my name, have drastic plastic surgery because, for some reason, my face, I don't know. I had myself laminated in the 80s. It's gross.
Yes.
I look the same.
Yes.
And it's not like bragging.
Yeah.
What the hell? Right? It's not normal. I know it's not. I'm 58 years old. What is going on? I don't know. I'm not taking
DNA,
any
baby,
drugs.
DNA.
I did not have a lift. I'm not taking any weird drugs. I have people come up to me and they say, you look the same. And I go, oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you. They go, no, I mean, you look the same. Like it's not normal.
Yeah.
And so I realized that unless I was going to like cut off my head or something, that was going to be difficult. Everyone was going to immediately go, well, it's you. And this wasn't going away. So I could radically like change my name, adopt another identity somewhere, or I could go with, and I'm like, okay, what are we going to do? We're going to have to go with, yes, it is me. When I started doing my one-woman show in 2002 in New York, fabulous New York, it was June of 2002. And I did Confessions of a Prairie Bitch. And I literally came out on stage and said, yes, fine, I am a bitch. Do people know what I've had to put up with? And started ranting about being Nellie Oleson. They lost their minds.
Yeah.
As soon as I said, yes, I know what you're thinking. Yes, I am her. And I know what's in your heads. You're thinking this about me. Well, so there. As soon as I attacked it and said, yes, this is what you say about me. And I know that you say this. Oh my God, they went berserk. It was like she's been in our house. She's been listening to our phone calls. And I just kept going with, and I know you said this, and I know you said that. And it was like this door opened. And suddenly I went, oh, okay, so this is what we do. And I haven't had any trouble since.
What is it? What is the special ingredient about Little House on the Prairie that, I mean, I've said this before, I don't know any other show that's had this kind of really deep effect on people's sight.
We were trying to figure this out because we were talking about that, like, okay, not to cast aspersions on any of my friends who were on the Marvelous Show family on ABC.
Yeah.
We were on at the same time, and they
Yes.
got all the Emmys. They went to the Emmys. They were always nominated, and they won a bunch of Emmys. And we like never like Melissa Sue Anderson, and then we were like nominated for like music and hair. I don't.
Yeah,
like
insane.
what?
Which
Yeah.
P.S. absolutely insane that your
And we
share
didn't
wasn't-
win. Like, shouldn't Michael Landon have won an Emmy for directing and writing? Shouldn't we have won Best Show? Shouldn't every actor on there have won a supporting actor, Best?
Yes.
Karen
Yes.
Graff didn't win a Best Actress. I didn't get Best. What? Yeah, we all should.
Yes.
It was like don't talk to those people. And then these other shows. And so Family was nominated for everything and like stacks of Emmys, and they were in all the magazines. And we were like, oh, yeah, those people. But not to cast aspersions, but is it out on DVD? Is it in reruns? Let alone on like 17 channels? And are people dressing up as them for Halloween?
No, or
There you go.
have drag queens as
Or drag queens, or drag, yeah. And
or 45 years later are having this conversation and another television series, about it.
In Nebraska, literally Nebraska, having giant festivals with thousands of people and dressing up as the characters to
Right.
these shows that were brilliant and enormously popular at the time.
So, I want to know, what was your audition like for Little House on the Prairie?
I was like 5 years old when I got my SAG card. So I was like acting, doing commercials and little things. And I'd been working quite a bit. I did a movie when I was 10, which is just perfectly dreadful, but I can sell you a DVD of it.
That's a deal.
I could get you one. Cheap. And so my dad was my manager because my father was a manager and he worked for Liberace.
Yes, indeed.
He did. But it's true. If you saw that Behind the Candelabra, the movie about Liberace with yeah. So they portrayed Seymour Heller. Dan Aykroyd played him. And it was dead on because that was my dad's boss. My father was vice president of television and film at Seymour Heller and Associates in the early 70s. And when I saw Dan Aykroyd come out with Seymour's glasses on and the suit, and he sat down, Debbie Reynolds was in it playing Liberace's mom.
Mother. Yes.
Debbie Reynolds was a client of Seymour, and my dad worked with her too. So she knew Seymour and she knew Liberace and his mother intimately. These were her friends. So she probably told Dana, well, this is if Seymour Billa, she knew him. So he comes in, he sits down, he went, harumph, and I screamed because that was the Seymour harumph. I mean, I saw him do that in my living room as a child. So my father worked for Seymour Heller, Liberace. So in fact, we moved to the Hollywood Hills when Seymour said, oh, Thor, you need to go rent a house in Hollywood Hills down the street from Lee, from Liberace, so you can like be on call. Need to pick him up, take him somewhere or something. So my dad's doing this. So he's managing me and the whole family and everybody. So he sits me down one day, I'm 11, and says, you haven't really booked lately. Since the movie, we really thought that would blow it out, open your career. But you've been auditioning, but you haven't booked anything in a while. And you have to understand sometimes, child actors, this happens. Kid actors work a lot, and then they don't work again till they're an adult. They work in their teen years. They work maybe after they're 18. Or sometimes they just never work again at all. And this, every actor has to take this into account. You might never work again. And you should be prepared for this. He gave me this speech. I'm 11. And he's giving me your career may be over. You are washed up at 11.
Right.
Speech. So then, I don't know, a week later, I go to this audition. Now, first I went to the Go See, 5,000 years ago, they Go See, where I went and met, and it was like Ed Friendly, and they said, we're making a show about these books. You read? I'm like, oh, I never read the books. And so I think nothing of it. And then I come back and I read for the part of Laura and the part of Mary. This is before the pilot.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Or as I said, Laura Ingalls, The Search for Scarlett O'Hara for 8-year-olds. They saw everybody in the universe. And of course, Melissa Gilbert nailed it. So then they make the pilot, right? So I forget all about it, right? Then they're making the series. It's sold. It was sort of quasi pre-sold, yeah, we're totally doing this. But they ran the pilot as a Christmas thing. And then boom, we're going to make the show. So they start casting the show for the town. And I'm called back again. Remember, never read the books. Clueless. I don't know what a Nellie Oleson is. I don't know there's people in Walnut Grove. No idea. So I go, and I'm thinking, how many people are in this show that I have to come back? It's a cast of thousands. What is going on? So I get the sign, and my dad is taking me, and I'm in cut off shorts and a t-shirt, and I'm looking at these signs, And she's horrible. It's all that stuff in the store where I don't think the country girls have a penny. What do you think? It's terrible. And I turned to my father and I said, this is not a normal audition. He said, what do you mean? I said, this girl's a bitch. And my father says, what? And I start reading it. And my father starts laughing. He's like dying. He's falling over. He says, oh my God, don't touch it. You read it like that. And I said, what? And he goes, no, don't read it again. Put the pages down. Don't look at them. He like slaps them down. I said, don't even look at them. Put them face down. Do not look at them. Do not read it again. Do not practice again. You go in there and you read it exactly like that. Don't touch it. I go in. It's Michael Landon, Kent McRae, Ed Friendly. Yep. And they're all on a little couch. And I sit in the chair and I'm like, I'm like this. But remember, you know how tiny I was on the show? You saw. I was 12 and I look like 8. So like I'm a little ding person. And so I come in, my blonde hair, my little side. And I said, yes. And I sit down and I start reading, I don't think the country girls have a penny. What do you think? Well, like country girls don't even know what a blackboard is. And then the famous, because they do essays and everyone's written a lovely essay about their mom or their dad or something. But Nellie's come in with how much everything costs in her house.
Right.
It's insane. And so I'm reading, my home is the best home in all of Walnut Grove. We have real lace curtains on all the windows, and our furniture is bought, not made. And my father, Olson's Mercantile, says it's not polite to say what things cost, but it costs dear, let me tell you. And we have carpet and six genuine oil paintings. But the part that killed me, it made me laugh in the waiting room was, and we have 3 sets of dishes, one for every day, one for Sunday, and one for when someone very special and important comes to visit, which we have never even used yet. Because Bimbo doesn't get it that she's just bragged about having these dishes, but they never, because you live in Walnut Grove, Minnesota.
Right.
They don't know anyone. The queen is not coming. No one is coming. You're never going to use these dishes. You are nobody. You live in you have a store in Walnut Grove. And she has just done this number on herself. I have a set of dishes that we have never used because no one is actually coming. And she doesn't get it. So playing that joke where that the character is dumb and doesn't know that they have just said this incredibly stupid thing, but playing the laugh that the character is oblivious to, which is like, acting 101. But I was 11. I'm not sure every 11-year-old necessarily got that joke.
No, of course not.
And went there. I got the joke. My dad and I were going, ah! In the waiting room going, oh my God, that's so funny. And so I did it. So there's Michael and Kettner. And they're laughing so hard. Michael has like tears rolling down his face. They're elbowing, they're like falling off the couch. They're like falling on each other, screaming and like knee slapping. And I'm kind of going, okay, hit a nerve. And then I'm done. And I said, they said, could you do that again, please? And I said, oh yes, what would you like me to change? Good little child actor waiting for direction. And Michael Landon says, tears rolling down his face, nothing, just read the thing about the house. And like he couldn't breathe.
I could imagine with you walking into that room, that moment that they know, like, this is it. It's every casting director talks about that moment of like, oh, here it is. It's the miracle we've been looking for.
You saw that episode when I'm reading it. I'm like, my eyelids are like translucent. I'm so pale. I look like a little doll. That's what I love. I was deathly pale.
Yeah, you look evil. Let's face it, you look evil.
And I'm sitting in my little half-light life going, my home. So they were going, who is this possessed child? So I read things, so he's sobbing and going, here's the thing about the house. And I'm like, okay, nobody's ever done that at an audition before. All right. And I read it again. I think they wanted to see, was this a fluke? Does this child actually, did she do that by accident? Or did she know it was that funny and she actually made, and I did it again, 3 sets of dishes. And I hit all the same jokes in the same spot because it was funny. And I read it again and they screamed with laughter, just screamed. And I finished and they said, thank you. And they let me leave. And I'm like, I don't know. My father's like, well, I don't know. I've never seen people laugh like quite that hard. I thought they were going to like hurt themselves. So he's like, oh my God. And the big joke, we're like, I think it was 30 minutes from Paramount Studios to our apartment. We lived in West Hollywood. So Melrose, I mean, it wasn't that far. And by the time we got in the door, Jess, who worked with my dad, was on the phone with the agent because they'd already called and said, "Oh yeah." Apparently, the door shut behind me, and they
And
picked
it
up.
was it. Yeah.
Oh my God! Shut up! She's hired. Like everybody go home.
So that's great. So there was no weeks and weeks of waiting to find out. You knew immediately.
Wardrobe fitting is Tuesday. I came in the
Unbelievable.
apartment. Jess was on the phone with the agent. He'd already made the deal. They had already called, said we want her. He'd already named the price, cut the deal, and said your wardrobe fitting is Tuesday. Is what I was greeted with when I came in the door. And we all went in berserk. I did the screaming, the rolling around on the ground, and then because this is my life, which is insane. My mom wasn't home from work yet, so we're all like, when did she come home? But then, and I had so many things because a bunch of stuff had happened at school. I had just made this really great pot holder. And then it was the day of the Symbionese Liberation Army, the whole Patty Hearst thing.
Yeah.
And guys, it was the day they had that shootout in downtown LA, and there was a fire. So this starts happening. And remember, there's only 3 channels, so we're all in front of the big TV going. And my mom comes home, and my mom, big like police report crime junkie. I'm surprised she didn't own a police scanner. So she's like, oh, and so she's just camped and she sits right down from the TV, and I'm like, hey, and she's like, in a minute, I think I can see Sinku. Is that Patty Hearst? And everyone was busy watching the fire and the shootout of the SLA, and I'm to my mother, I got a series. She's like, hang on, and I had to wait till like the shootout was over. The big SLA raid before I could completely tell my mother that I just about to sign a 7-year contract.
Oh my God.
And then I went to wardrobe, and indeed I had to go to court because 7 years is like, and I was 12 court. And the judge was really cool because he said, these children are 12. He said, I know this is Hollywood and sign contracts, but first of all, I'm putting in a thing, because this is 7 years, that at 14, if these minors wish to break this contract, there will be no repercussions. I'm putting in they can break it if they have to.
Wow.
He said, the other thing, he says, and I'm going to say this, and no judge signing a minor's contract has ever done this, but this guy was amazing. He said, I'm going to put this out there. I know this is Hollywood, and you routinely sign binding contracts with children for TV shows and movies, but I am going to tell you as a judge, these 2 people are minors. This contract is not worth the paper it is written on. They are under 18, and legally they can break this contract. And if they come to court and say, I was not 18, and what signature? What does it mean? I signed it, my parents signed it. They can renege on this contract. And if push comes to shove, the law will prevail on their side. And he said, and I assure you, if you wind up in my courtroom and they've decided to break it, I'm going to say, yeah, man, you signed a contract with a 12-year-old. Are you crazy? So he said, so you guys from the network and the suits from NBC are there. Just remember that this judge knows I'm approving this, but these are 12-year-old, and this is not a real contract. We're going to like pretend it is for the sake of, but
do you know if any other
into it.
Did you know if that was the case with Melissa Gilbert and Melissa Sanderson and the other child actors?
I'm not sure. All contracts now, if you were just doing day play, because there were some kids on the show that didn't sign a full contract. There was they didn't. But a full contract did have to, at that age, be approved by a judge. But I don't know I don't think Melissa Gilbert went. I think her mom or representatives went, and sometimes they just went. But my family, of course, I went to the tax accountants.
Right.
When it was tax time, get in the car. What? That's it. You're going. It's boring. Shut up. And I had to sit like on phone books because it's short, and to see over the desk of Leonard Oliver, the accountant. And I was because 12 and tax returns. I mean, most adults can't read that stuff. And it was like, okay, this is what you spent and this is what you made. And I'd be like, and it was like, wake up. And it's like, you will pay attention to this and sign your. So I was made aware of what I made and taxes and the contracts and go to court. So I was like dragged kicking and screaming into that world. And my parents didn't believe. I mean, many child actors say they didn't know what they made.
Right. Yeah.
Results. They had an allowance. I had a passbook savings account at 10 and a checking account at 13. My father had to co-sign my checks. Understandably, I was a minor, but he would take my checkbook and go sign like 4 or 5 of them and say, well, that ought to hold you. If you need more than that, you're really doing something wrong. So, here.
But how empowering too, and what a great lesson to learn. I mean, there are many kids, they turn 18 and they're just like, well, how do I don't know how it all works. How am I supposed to do this?
I have to pay rent. What? They're like, they don't know how to do anything. Right. And so I had this really weird head start and like, yeah.
Well, I can't imagine. I don't know how many Nellies they must have gone through, but I cannot imagine anyone else other than you.
I'm trying to imagine what kind of readings. I mean, if they were, I'm sure there were brilliant little actresses, but like a normal little girl, what on earth did they do?
Well, and we've had this conversation before of, I think that the casting is so brilliant on the show, and that's because Michael Lambden seemed to find those actors who played against what was being written on the paper. So why weren't we all going, oh, this is too sugary sweet when, let's say, Mary was having a sweet moment? Because she didn't play the sweetness, she played the realness and the vulnerability, which is why it was sweet. And I think
Richard Bull, Nels and Harriet, she's like awful, but he loves her. Right. And he was a brilliant actor. He'd come out of the Goodman School and he'd done a zillion TV shows and movies, and they'd all like gone through Bonanza. Whereas now Catherine was all theater and only done a little TV. So she was brilliant because everyone said, well, isn't that a little big and a little over the top, a little operatic? Oh, but she said this thing in an interview was so crazy because it's like, well, yeah, it's big, but she said, no. I started reading the script and looking at the books and went, wait, this is a story. The story's all told from the point of view of a 9-year-old girl. This is Laura's story. This is all through her eyes. This isn't really happening.
Yeah,
this is Laura's memory of what happened. That's what the whole thing is. And if I had a memory book, I did that at the end of the show. She said, this is a 9-year-old's vision. So she said, imagine your family's poor, you go to the store, and this woman comes out in this black dress who owns the store, and she's mean to your mom. How could somebody be mean to your mom?
Right.
And she says, so she would be a terrifying vision. She wouldn't, she'd be bossy and impossible and foolish, and she made her foolish. She's rich and foolish and silly. She said, but seen from looking up at her from a little 9-year-old girl, she would be terrifying. She would be out of a nightmare. So she said, but yes, so that's what I played it. It's not, there's reality, and then there's this 9-year-old girl remembering how frightened she was of this woman. Right. It's like, oh my God, she like got that.
Which is the difference between, which is what makes the show that it's constantly riding that fine line of fantasy and historical accuracy, right? So
until we go nuts and we do dream sequences and it's actually fantasy. Okay.
Right.
the fool's gold when Laura dreams that they're rich and suddenly they've all been wearing sackcloth for like how many years on the show. They're in white, not just wealthy, but they're all in white. Like and there's a coach like Cinderella and white horses and Pa's got this diamond pin and they're in tiaras and it's like and then no, she doesn't stop there. The Olsons come out of the mercantile and we're poor.
Right.
And Mr. Oleson, Richard Bull, looks like Emmett Kelly. He looks like the clown Emmett Kelly with his clothes all torn and the top hat. And I'm in rags with a mole, with a big wart on my face and dirt. And of course, I was thrilled because I didn't have to wear the wig. Hair with like dibbity-doo and fuller's earth and filth in it. And I had this raggedy dress and I wasn't hot. I was no petticoats. I was actually comfortable for 5.5 minutes. So it was great. And Melissa loved it because she wanted to dress up. She loved
Of course.
things. And here she was playing Laura and and she was sometimes, oh, you're the pretty dresses. I like pretty things. She loves pretty things. So now she was a princess. She was a princess for a whole day. She was ecstatic. And I was like, look, no stockings, no petticoats. I'm in heaven. So it was like the best day of our lives. So this was a dream. And then she dreams, music box, that she's in a dungeon, and I'm in a dungeon master's costume.
Right.
And it's the 1300s. We're in the 14th century, and Mrs. Oleson comes and we're in dungeon master wear from the medieval times, and with a turkey leg, and hitting her, and then we hang her. She's on the executioner's cart, and I am in a black executioner's mask, but with ringlets sticking out, and a peppermint stick. And I remember Melissa Gilbert even talked about it. She goes, that was Michael. Who would do that? Who would have her in a hangman's costume but had the peppermint stick sticking out of her face? And then we go hang her, and she wakes up. What? This all happened at Little House on the Prairie.
Amazing. Well, that's the thing. People don't know. People don't know unless you know. But people who don't know, they think the show is something that it's not.
Hence, it was trending on Twitter.
I know.
Somebody stumbled across the episode that we have all seen thousands of times, The Wisdom of Solomon. Todd Bridges, and where he talks about his family being slaves and racism, and he flat out looks Mr. Ingalls in the eye and says, would you like to live to be 100 as a black man or die at 50 as a white man? And Mr. Ingalls goes, oh wow, and realizes like, hello, and he says the N-word and everything.
Yeah, he sure
and
does.
freaks out Miss Beadle, and talks about how horrible it is to be called this, to be black in America at that time. And this was on in 1910, and people went berserk then, but people don't know. And this young guy on Twitter saw this and flipped out and went, I had no idea Little House was so raw. Who knew? And then people do,
we knew!
Woke AF. Woke
we knew. That's why you get so mad when people say it's a family show.
Right. And the number of people this last couple of weeks when they saw this who just lost their minds.
It was trending number. It was the number 2 trending, on Twitter and on social media. Do you know how happy that made me? Do you know how happy that made me?
Do you know, and from us, it's 2020. It's 2020. We filmed the show in 1974. And when was Wisdom of Solomon? 76? 77? It's a century.
It's hit a nerve because I also referenced that in episode 4. Little Willis from Different Strokes.
Racism. They had racism.
Racism.
I love that.
But, these shows in the 70s, the Archie Bunker and it all.
Jefferson's, yeah.
We were in a different time, and that's what's so interesting about it now too, is that although we have progressed in our political correctness and our awareness, this couldn't happen today, this type of discussion or the bluntness of what little Todd Bridges was saying. Or
we've gone forwards and backwards at the same time. Because
exactly.
on the one hand we say, we've gone so much forward because laws have been passed about discrimination against all peoples, gay, lesbian, black, white, what have you, and we have it, and people talk about these things. On the other hand, hate crimes against people who are Jewish, who are black, who are Mexican, who are gay, they're up. I mean, we've gone everything. So we know more, and then we're also still really stupid at the same time. So maybe we need to go back and watch Little House on the Prairie again.
Well, and everyone is these days. It's been really just amazing timing with all of this happening in the world, and people coming back to Little House on the Prairie. I mean, in a real way. Brooks Barnes in the New York Times just came up and with
what was that? I am a bonnet head. What? And he linked to everything. He not only linked to everything, he linked to my webpage.
I
linked to my readings on Facebook. I'm like, who are you?
It was like a wonderful dream come true. I know it's been crazy and also very gratifying for a fan who recognizes what the show is. To see all of this attention.
But that's why, so how did I get hooked up with her? So I'm in New York, and my friend Jimmy, who's a tour guide, Jimmy Dykes, Rich and Famous Tours, says, hey, I do this thing sometimes where I get Broadway actors to come in, because he does a lot of tours with high school and college classes who are theater students who want to come to New York. They bring them in for the week to New York, and they go to a couple of plays, they visit all the sites, and he would often set up a whole thing where he'd tour the theaters and all the theatrical historical monuments. And he said, I have a thing where I bring in an actor to do a Q&A about this is what it's like to really be in a Broadway play. And they're like, how do they pay and everything? So he says, it's a few bucks. And he calls around and he said, so there's this actress. And she answered my dad one day and said, yeah, I'll do that. And she was a blast. Wow, she was really good. And they really loved her. And she's in this show. And, she's kind of a big fan. She's like a bonnethead. We should go see her show. So she said, I can stick it.
Let me tell you that version of that story.
Gets better?
Oh, it's so much better than that. I got an email. I'm booking, I do these tours, I'm booking a Broadway actor. Would you be interested to come and sing a song, do a talk back, hour tops, here's what you'd get paid. And I was like, yeah, heck yeah, I'll do that. I come in, do my thing. The tour guide is there. He spoke maybe 2 words the entire time, didn't really have a conversation with him, but very nice. All done. Later that evening, he has friended me on Facebook. And on my personal Facebook page, and I really don't accept people's invites on my personal page unless I'm actually friends with the person. For some reason, I clicked confirm. And as soon as I clicked it, I said to myself, why did I just do that? Why did I just do that? Next thing I know, I'm looking at his profile picture and his page, and there are pictures of him with you.
All over. I'm all over his profile. I am all over his profile page. Yes.
What? Wait, what? Are you kidding me? And I emailed him and I was like, you're friends with her? And he was like, we've been best friends for 20 years. And that's how this crazy connection happened.
And then he said, come to the show. And it was, hand to God.
Yeah.
Hand to God with the crazy thing with the puppets. And it was amazing. And then we didn't have a lot of time because you had another show. We thought the matinee, and you were like that. But you introduced me to the rest of the cast, who were also all Bonnet hits. I was very excited.
Yeah.
And then we went to lunch really quick. We went to this little diner. We got like potato salad. Like it was like that. And then you
oh God.
did your impression of Melissa Gilbert in the infamous Mr. Applewood episode. And the mean teacher comes to Walnut Grove, that terrible man, Mr. Applewood, who beats the children with a ruler and slaps their hands. It was very frightening. And in the episode, Laura cries and says, no, Mr. Applewood, please. But as her teeth at that time were so enormous.
You're going to get Melissa Gilbert to officially hate me after this. But yes,
well, I said it to her because we recorded. And Melissa could hardly breathe for this thing. She's crying. So it's like all this gulping. You nailed it. And she does this impression right there, Natasha, and you have to do it right now. And I taped it on my phone and went and texted it to Melissa Gilbert. And she was like,
yes, it was a.
Do it. Mr. Applewood.
Okay, Mr. Applewood. Here we go. Oh, Mr. Applewood. Please. A little lisp with the buck teeth.
Melissa and I would make fun of each other. When we shot the show, we would memorize each other's lines, of course, and every now and then we would have a go at each other, and I would go, oh, but then she would turn around and go, my mother is dead.
Well, I think that's really nice for people to know that you and Melissa were actually best friends. We were not enemies in real life at all.
Oh my God, it was so fun. As she's even said, which allowed us to go places people could really go, because that we choreographed our own fight scenes.
Right.
Because we could do it. Nobody who was going to get hurt. They could just say go, and we'd start wailing on each other, and it's not like we were ever going to hurt each other, and we knew, and we could scream at each other and slap, and we were laughing. I mean, the mud fight, the famous mud fight, we're laughing so hard when we're filming. It was just
so great. That's so great. Well, I love that you already answered the number one question, which is, yes, it was a wig.
Oh my God, yes.
Yes, it was a wig.
So it was such a wig, and it hurt.
You poor thing.
So it noted. Okay, but here you go. See, people say, but I couldn't tell. Look how the hair is pulled back here, and you can't see the wig line.
Yeah.
And see, that's what they did is they curled even before they did that stuff. These 2 pieces were
so that it
got
went
a hot
over.
there.
Yeah.
And they curled my bangs, and they curled this, and then all of my other hair went under a wig cap, so I looked sort of like a rabbinical student.
Yes, sure.
And the cap. And then they put the wig on with the giant, this metal, it was metal comb, and it went here. And so that's very surprised for 7 years. And the eyebrows were up, and it jammed right in there, and it hurt just holy.
They used a comb just instead of pins?
It was attached. It was a metal piece. When, as I said in the book, when you drive your car out of the parking lot and it says, do not back up. And
yes.
Kind of like that device. It was a piece of metal with these teeth, this like little metal, it was attached. She was in the wig, and it was right here in the front bit of the wig. So they would, as they put, and they would jam that sucker right in there and pull it. Oh my God. And then because then it did not move. And then they put in all the pins, and that thing did not move. And then they take the first two curls, so we pull them down and comb my hair into them. And then it was either the two bows or the pull it back, which is why for the, hairdressers, hardcore professional hairdressers, they could see a photo or look at the show and go, good wig. Yeah, it's a wig. But normal people who did not manufacture or put on wigs on a daily basis watched the show for years and went, what wig? I don't. Do you see a wig? I see no wig. This is her hair. This is not a wig. And people could not tell me. It freaked people out. Oh, it's perfect. And meanwhile, I'm going, I can't move my scalp.
You have a bruise
because it was a million pins, and then it really hurt.
Yeah.
But it looked great. It looked great, and it stayed on during going down hills in wheelchairs.
Right.
Yes. Never gets old. That
never gets old.
And so it stayed on, and it was like brilliant, but it really like hurt. But yeah, you. So she does the Mr. Applewood impression, which I tape and send to Melissa. And so
I love that you're talking about me and my Mr. Applewood impression. I was going to ask another question.
Then we keep talking, and then one day she emails me this thing. She says, so there's this crazy thing. I've been an actress for years. I've done this, I've done that, I've done da 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 da. But I've always wanted to write a web series. I've never done it. I want to write a comedy web series. And I go, well, that sounds good. And she says, but it's kind of this little house thing and blah, 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 blah. But I'll send it to you. Now, okay, as I said, I'm 58. Still that little house. Do people send me stuff? Yeah, they send me stuff. People have been sending me scripts and treatments and ideas and plot lines and movies and like through the transom and through the windows and the doors since before there were computers by the gazillions, forever since I was on the show. Here, you read my thing. And I think I did. And how many of them are good? You know how it is. Everyone, I have been sent so many scripts and so many things, and many of them are just, well, they're not good. They are bad. And I politely, no, thank you. Yeah, what do you do? But now and again, that's why I always say, go ahead. Now and again, somebody sends me something. I go, wow, hey, that is pretty good. And then sometimes they have money and we can make the darn thing. So she says, I'm going to send you this thing, these 6 episodes of this thing I've written. I'm like, okay, here we go. And then I start reading it and I start laughing. And I'm reading this, like the sandstorm, the fictionary sandstorm, and then it gets going, and the therapist and I'm going, I like freaked out. I went, this is genius. This is freaking genius. This is the funniest thing I've read in ages, and she's nailed it. She's nailed the whole Little House obsession phenomenon. And I called you, and it's like, and then endless. It was fate. Miracle, fate, weird, bizarre cross connections. And I'm sitting in a cafe in New York going, but your connections to these people, these fictitious characters on the show. And I'm like, wow, it's the Twilight Zone. and that's why, but it was like these endless bizarre chance meetings. And
it was. But
this is how my whole life was. Is that how your life was? Because that's my whole life, is that, yes.
It is. My career has not been this. It's been this in the most weird and wonderful way, this being sort of the pinnacle of the awesomeness of the weirdness of it all. But that's the thing. I really, I wanted to write something that was sort of the anti-fan piece,
right? But at the same
I'm
time,
not glorifying the fandom of it. I'm pointing out the ridiculousness of a lot of the obsession, not discounting the love and the purity for it.
It's like the series is brilliant, and this is why people love it. But this is that, yes, people go too far in their love. Well, and then you have the brother, the cousin is the Star Wars freak, who's
right, exactly.
The whole like
with the Chewbacca mask.
And the two of them got freak. Yeah.
Well, because that's the thing. I don't even think I'm that big of a bonnet head compared to some other bonnet heads. I'm just the girl that wrote a TV series about it. But I'm not one. I'm not.
And could do the impression of Melissa Gilbert.
Right.
thinks their fandom is totally normal, and there's other
I
fandom.
know.
But I was at in France. The many things in France. It was the Moran Music Festival in Central France. Fantastic event, and gazillions of people. But I was there, you know, because Nellie is there, and they had, one year they had the cast of Dallas. They'd had Larry Hagman. They had, you know, Western things. I was there. And it was crazy. We're in the middle of nowhere in France, and there's all these people, and some of them are in Western gear, and some are in Prairie gear. And there was apparently another convention down the road because there was a guy dressed in full white Star Wars stormtrooper costume. The whole
Wow.
with us, and he got in line to get my autograph. He just showed up out of nowhere. We're like, so there's another convention up the road, and it was just like, woo!
I know, it's for real, and that's the thing too, is that I could have replaced any show, and it would have still been about the same story, but
Right.
you know, Little House on the Prairie
It's
doesn't
true,
have
the
the
Little
cool
House, the
factors
way
as Star
it
Wars.
works because like this thing when you're on the date with the guy, and what's your favorite, you know, comfort TV when you're in jail? Do you watch Little House? Somebody goes, ha ha ha, no, really?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, because people go, huh, what? And then she's like, no, you don't understand. And it's true, because that is a thing that people go, well, Little House on the Prairie is this. And you're like, no, it's this, which is what people are now finding out. And then they're going to therapy, and the therapist going, this isn't a current show.
Right.
And why? What does this mean? And it's so just wonderfully. And I love, though, the thing. What if you found someone? That's one of my favorite things. Someone who didn't have anything in common with. I mean, is this a deal breaker? What if you didn't love Little House on the Prairie? What if someone you had nothing in common with but loved you and valued you and you go like Nellie and Percival?
That's my only reference point. That is the
Oh,
model of
reference
a
point.
perfect relationship. And let's face it was the perfect relationship. It was the perfect
all the
relationship.
reference points are the Prairie, which is
Yes.
freaking hilarious, right?
Thank you.
And brilliant. And so that's a real thing. And so that idea is, and then the meeting of the guys in with the bottom people who only with Little House. I don't know any shows where people like lie about liking it and secretly have seen every episode and own the DVD.
No, there's a Prairie closet for sure.
But here
closet.
in your show, you have a secret meeting of guys in Bonnethead Anonymous who don't let anyone know that they love the show. And that's only with Little House, I think. Do you have that?
I think that is the truth. Okay, we have some fan questions for you.
Hi, Allison. My name is Wendy. I'm from Iowa City, Iowa. I'm a big Little House fan. I've been watching Little House on the Prairie since I was 8 years old. What is your favorite episode? What is your favorite memory? If you could write an episode, what would it be about? Thank you. Bye.
Well, so I'm doing this show, and Nellie's getting meaner and meaner and meaner and doing more and more outrageous things. It's like, oh, and then suddenly there's a script where she falls off the horse. Totally her fault.
Funny.
And I can't move my leg. She pretends to be paralyzed. This is serious. That's a terrible thing to do. And why I like that episode, Bunny, so much is normally Nellie is doing things to ruin Laura's life and picking on her. But everyone's life is, look, Mrs. Olson thinks her daughter is never going to walk again and is devastated. There's even a scene where Richard Bull, where Nels Olson is crying in the storeroom because he thinks his daughter is now crippled for life. Doc Baker has to drop what he's doing, come rushing, and he can't. He doesn't know what. Well, because I'm faking, and he doesn't know why she can't walk. And it's like, make her walk, doctor, and he can't. So now he's like, what am I doing? What am I even doing here? I can't fix this. I'm useless as a doctor. Charles Ingalls, who has more than enough to do, has to stop what he's doing for work and go refurbish a wheelchair for her. Miss Beadle has to write out all her assignments to give to Laura to take her. And why? It's about a boy. Now the French get this. The French realize that all the Laura Nellie episodes are about jealousy and romance. This was all because Jason, we were in love with Jason, he was paying attention to her. And now I have everyone's attention. And I even say, oh, I guess you don't have time to spend with Jason now that you're here. And it's all about to break her up with Jason. It's all of this. But Nellie is actually ruining the week and the life of grown-ups. She's messing with the grown-ups. This is serious. And I like that episode because it's really over the top. And then what do you do? How do you get out of this?
Right.
And then Laura pushes her down. On what television show ever do you have a 13-year-old girl pushed down a hill in a wheelchair into a pond? This never happens, ever. What actor gets it like, and today you're going to ride down a hill in a wheelchair?
Yes.
So, never gets old. So, we did this, and yes, there was a stunt woman, because I go down the hill part way, and then the stunt girl goes all the way down, and she does the somersault into the pond. I don't do that. Then they go to another hill, a different hill, that is longer but less steep, and they put me in the chair. Still, no seatbelts. I'm in my nightgown and underwear and bedroom slippers. Oh, I have a real broken arm. Under the 1800s cast, they wrote in the part there because I really broke my arm skateboarding.
Oh, wow.
So they said, okay, well, she broke her arm during the thing. We'll put a cast. So I'm in no position to be crashing around a wheelchair, but they go, here you go, and push me down a hill, just a longer one that was less steep, screaming my head. It was terrifying. So we did that. But where do you do that? So that is absolutely, yes, Bunny it is my favorite episode because it's just nothing like that ever happens. Favorite memory, again, going down the hill in a wheelchair. Yeah, my favorite memories from the show, I mean, hanging out with the people. I mean, we had birthdays there. We had a party every year. We had the rap party. I mean, it's just endless memories with these people. If I wrote an episode, well, now Melissa Gilbert and I sometimes would sit around and plot things, and we thought, how is the show going to end? And this was years before, you know, and ultimately they blew up the sets, which is even crazier than we could have imagined. But we sometimes would say, well, how would this end? Would we kill off the characters or how would, and we started to write in our minds and scribble notes about how would it go? Like if everyone in Walnut Grove died, or like what bizarre thing that would happen that would end the show. And that got pretty crazy. That was like hilarious. We would do that. And we write terribly macabre, awful plots. I would, though, if I wanted Nellie to have a relapse, because Nellie got really nice.
She sure did.
Married Percival. And thank heavens, finally, she had a man who loved her for her, and they understood.
Good Jewish boy. Yeah.
Good Jewish boy. So finally, she's like chilled out. She's happy. She's nice. She got kids. But what if something went wrong, and she just went back to this raging self? What would that be like? And so we said, okay, we came up with this idea, and Nellie goes bananas, and she's just insane. And like Percival's worried that she's going to hurt the twins. He has to keep them away from her. The Reverend Alden has to step in, Doc Baker, and they just, and like, you know, do they put her on medication? And say, oh yeah. So we were coming up with like, you know, kooky ideas like that.
I love it. I would watch that episode. Okay, next and last question. This is from Lenora. She wants to know, Alison, when you were playing Nellie as a child, when you would go out in public, did other children or people think you were really a mean little girl and not want to talk with you or be your friend?
Yes. Still, yes. I talked about this in the book. I went to a Easter fair. It was a fundraiser for a school, a fancy school in Los Angeles, and they had a big Easter fair. Oh, and they had baby ducks and chickens, and it was lovely. And they invited me and Catherine McGregor, Mrs. Olson, to come to this fair. So they said, let's have them in costume. And somebody at the school knew someone at NBC. So, excuse me, I had to have another swig of milk. So they said, can we have them in costume? Because normally that would not happen, but they called someone. So we get the call, me, my dad, and everything. Okay, you come down to the set and you're going to get full makeup and costumes, and you're going to be taken out to this fabulous school and hang out and sign autographs. And my father said, this is a bad idea. It's one thing to appear, it's another thing to appear in costume. Right. And he said, first of all, as your manager, as an actress, you're not Strawberry Shortcake. You're not Holly Hobby. This, you know, going out, you're not a Disney character. Just going out in the costume thing is ridiculous. He said, but secondly, it incites people. I said, what? He said, you're playing the villain. People really hate you. Going out because I think it's dangerous, frankly, but all right. And he knew. So we go, and there's Catherine and I. We are decked out, and we're at this fair, and they're supposed to come out. Nobody wanted her autograph. They were terrified of us. We were a bomb. We're there. People are just going, they're coming up and like backing away slowly. Catherine, who loved little children, this family, their little girl, she went, hello, dear. And this child was like about 4, started screaming and crying and ran away. And Catherine was upset for like the rest of the day. She's like,
Oh, no.
a train wreck. And we're just sitting there going, well, nobody's coming for autograph. They're like coming up going, it's those people, like leaving. And so we're like, this is stupid. So I said, okay, fine. And there was like concessions and food and things. I said, I'm getting a hot dog and a Slurpee. And I went and I got myself hot dog and Slurpee. And I'm walking down this pathway and I hear the footsteps behind me and there's nothing I can do. It's too late. These 2 little girls ran up and they kicked me right in the butt, kicked me hard, knocking me to the pavement, losing my hot dog and my Slurpee. But I mean, I hit the cement. I face planted. And I couldn't really get up because the petticoats, it's like a turtle. Help.
Yeah.
And I was totally freaked out. But I mean, still in part of my brain, I talked about in this book, I still kind of went, wow, they thought it was real. Ooh, what did I do? But then my father came and like scraped me off the pavement and he bought me another hot dog and a Slurpee and said, we're leaving. And he took me home and he called, you should have heard him. Oh, he gave them such hell. He said, I told you. He was very dramatic. She was attacked. But he said, no, see, I told you. It incites people. You must never go out in that costume. He's right. But yeah, so people did. And I had somebody throw the orange soda at my face in the Christmas parade. A lot of credit to them. The car was moving and they still got me right.
Alison. Well, like you say, it takes talent to scare the crap out of people. Alison Arngrim.
I was very lucky. I stayed in school for like, so that when I had school on the set, but when there was a break, like days, right back to my regular school with my friends. So it'd be like at regular school for a week, go work for a week, be at school for 3 days, go work for 2 weeks, back and forth. But I stayed friends with these people from the 3rd grade. So when I had friends, they knew me and they didn't care. They knew who I was. Because making new friends, my friends, they would introduce me to their friends. And if they knew, they would just sort of look at me and they'd be like, and they'd be like, no. He's like, nah. So it was very difficult to make new friends.
Well, I will say one of the other big questions that I got was, who was the character most unlike who they played? And I will say, without even needing to ask anyone else, Alison Arngrim, who's been and is the nicest, most supportive, most generous, lovely human being. An amazing advocate for children's rights, for AIDS activism, your work with protect.org, your work with AIDS activism. You're just an incredible, incredible human being. We have to wrap it up, but I'm going to read this because there's so much that you do that I have to read it. Ready?
Can I do one? I have to give you one They Hate Me story when
Please.
Bob told me. Okay, it's quick. When Bob told his parents to marry me. So Bob and I decided to get married. We've known each other for like years, and we didn't start dating until like we know each other. It's like when Harry met Sally. So we finally getting married. So he calls his mom and dad, who were in Ohio at the time, to tell them remember, he's the last kid to get married. His brother's married, has kids. His sister's married, has kids. He's the black sheep of the family, didn't get married. So he calls his parents, tell him he's finally getting married, right? So they both get on the other line. And he says he's getting married. Well, I mean, his mother's like, declared a miracle, getting out the rosary beads. He's getting married. They're so happy. And he says, I'm getting married. Oh, it's wonderful. What does she do? Blah, blah. I was like, well, she's an actress. Oh, that's wonderful. Has she been in anything we might have seen? And he says, yes, she was on Little House on the Prairie. Oh, well, of course, Field, Ohio, population 600. Of course, they've seen every episode of Little House on the Prairie. So they're ecstatic. Little House on the Prairie. Who did she play? And he says, she played Nellie Oleson. It was like the line went dead. There was this silence. Hear a pin drop. Just like nothing. And finally his father says, she's not like she was on the show, is she?
Oh.
And of course Bob was like, oh yeah, she's horrible. Yeah, she's a bitch. That's why I'm marrying her. What is wrong with you? The line went dead. Total silence. She's not like, yes. His parents were horrified.
It
Then
must
they
have
met,
been-
and they found out I could cook, and
Yes,
all
it must have been a huge relief finally meeting you.
yeah.
My goodness gracious. I can't even imagine. I know you have 10 million stories. I could sit here and listen to you
Every
all
day.
day, all night, every day. But we should probably wrap this up. But I'm gonna read everything that you're doing, and you interject if there's something I have not gotten. You can catch Alison doing her one-woman show called Confessions of a Prairie Bitch, which is also the title of her autobiography. It's amazing. You could also listen to her saying it out loud on audiobook. Is it on Audible or just, is it Audible they can get it?
Audible?
Or Audible, on Audible. Or Google, wherever they do audiobooks, you can get her.
Amazon.
Amazing. You even do your show in French when you do it in France, which is...
Mais oui, c'est un spectacle français. C'est spécialement pour le français. It's a specially designed show for the French.
Oui. She's doing readings every single day, and she has been for weeks now, starting from book 1 of the Little House series. And I don't know if you've been watching. I know I have. It has been so comforting to hear and see Alison reading these books. She sells bonnets, people. She's selling bonnets. If you go to her website, www.bonnetheads.com, her merch is awesome. Please get a bonnet. Also, Dean Butler and Charlotte Stewart have been reading. I don't know if anyone else is going to do some readings, but it's been so comforting during this time watching her read these books. Quite honestly, Alison, it was such a brilliant idea. It's been so comforting for thousands and thousands of people.
It's been comforting to me. That's why.
It was such a brilliant idea, and it's been so wonderful. Okay, wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more.
Then she has also created the Nasty Nellie Hollywood tour, where you could go to Hollywood once everything opens back up again, and she will give you a tour. Nellie Oleson giving you a tour. Alison Arngrim giving you a tour. And then she sells bonnets. We said that already. And then her work with Protect.org. And my God, what don't you do?
Oh, my talk show. I do the Alison Arngrim show every Tuesday live at 5. Now it's by Zoom. They're not in the studio, but we do that.
Right.
Have I had you on yet? Have you been on yet?
I haven't been on yet. Talked about it though.
There you go. Boom. Done.
Well, maybe you'll see me on Alison's talk show quite soon, every Tuesdays at 5.
And I have the woman who started it all with me, star of Broadway and now of internet TV, Ms. Pamela Bob.
Hello. What an internet. Oh, I get the applause. Woohoo!
You get the applause.
Yeah.
Well, how the hell are you?
From the bottom of my heart, Alison, I cannot thank you enough. You have been nothing but supportive. You've been nothing but like gangbusters and helping with this thing. And your work in the series was so amazing.
It's such a great scene. The scene you wrote is so just like brilliant. And then the juxtaposition where you're just screaming and crying. And I'm like, So it's so funny. And for me to do this thing, which, like I said, taking everything and turning it upside down and backwards, where suddenly I'm this life coach going, why do you like this? What? And then it's King Joffrey. Wait, what? I mean, it's so freaking funny. And it just takes everything and goes, right? So it's great. And hey, like I said, I'm pretty good in it. Like you're saying, I love this, and this clip is so different from all my other stuff. Like I said, I said, hey, I need the clip. When you're trying to keep a lid on, I said, my agent needs this clip. She has to send it to people. I got to put it up on my reel because it's like my best work.
You're truly. Every time I watch that episode and I see you, I literally go, she's so good. She's so good. And everyone who sees it goes, she's so good. No, thank you.
You're so good in it.
Thank you.
Just like the water works.
Well, it's the curse of Michael Landon. Let me tell you that much. It's the curse, the blessing and the curse of Michael Landon. Anyway, thank you. And thank you all for joining us. And next week is our big finale with our cast reunion and fundraiser for the Actors Fund. Tune in. The Actors Fund is going to be doing some really, really, really cool stuff to raise money, and the cast of Little House on the Prairie is also contributing to that. So stay tuned. You'll find out how. Hint, hint, bonnets might be involved. And I hope to see you then. In the meantime, you can always donate to the Actors Fund now, www.actorsfund.org/donate. And check us out on
Okay, wait. Plug for the Actors Fund,
livinonaprairie.com.
again. Plug for the Actors Fund, because the Actors Fund, because it's all by the Actors Fund, and like the Motion Picture Home in Woodland Hills and things and all that. Catherine McGregor and Richard Bull both lived out their days at the Actors Fund.
That's right. That's right. Which is all done by the Actors Fund. I know people whose parents are here out in the New York City area in the residential homes here. They're amazing.
For years, I mean, right now, obviously, they're helping so many actors who've been impacted by the pandemic.
Right.
But even before that, you knew you could call the Actors Fund. They've done wonderful things. They're beautiful.
Right. So it's a time of great need, but we're all in this together. Wash your hands, wear your masks. Try not to go out too much, and we'll get through this. And watch some Little House on the Prairie while you're at it. Anyway, thanks so much, you guys. Thank you, Alison. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Kept that was one of his things. Oh, and this one.
Awesome.
So I'm ready. This just never ever gets old. Where do you live? I'll come over.
Doing that with the. It's just.
The
Where are
hungry
these?
party.
Where are these gentlemen? Where are they?
Oh.
Yeah,
there it is.
I have been 4 hours straight.
Yes.
Yes.
I've been talking to you on Zoom for 4 hours straight.
I'll be right back.
Sure. This is great that you're doing this. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. This is very fun.
She was stressing out is not the proper word. Oh, cheese it. It's the fuzz.
Now it's your big face in my face. All right, here we go.
Oh, my
That
angle's
juice.
still good. Yeah, I still look good. Okay, good.
Good.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Well, Dean's gonna be a piece of cake. He is El Manzo.
Yeah.
He's a piece of cake. He is like the nicest person just in the world. He is El Manzo. That's him. That's him. That's what you see is what you get, baby.
Oh, we good? We good? We good? We good? We good?
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, man.